found the Eugenics Research Organization website. It just didn't really represent what the grim stuff that was in that archive. The seeds were planted there for some of the grimmest moments in the 20th century. When I started with the eugenics stuff and then knew that somehow that played a role in the notion of abduction of people for measuring and extended that into Betty and Barney Hill. And the event itself is not of interest to me other than at the transition of this couple into a form of American mythology. It just seemed like this concept, very much like eugenics, like this concept would have, you know, a very abstract concept, have severe interpersonal complications between two people because of society. And that's why it was interesting to me as an because they're abducted, and they're abducted by an abstraction.
There it goes.
I love to dance. I do South American songs.
When you have like 32 performers, you have to create a world of reference for them using such a large cast of sort of gaseous forces on stage. I mean, there's like so many people and so many things, and there's so many references that it can sort of degrade into a miasma of just, you know, overwhelmed information. And so I felt like the piece needed to have some really sharp, hardcore edges and compositional things that people could really butt up against. I cast it before I produced the script. So I, you know, did open cast calls in this region, and I came across super, super interesting people and really talented, amazing, fabulous, interesting stuff.
This is your introduction to Nova. This is your introduction to Cosmos.
But Sean approached me later on, you know, after I had auditioned later on, and said, hey, I have the perfect part for you, which is I play Carl Sagan's ghost, which has been a really interesting role. Carl Sagan, he also plays sort of a little bit of a Wizard of Oz-ish kind of thing. I mean, if you're familiar with Carl Sagan, you know, the great explainer, the great skeptic.
Now, some of these children have a perverted appetite and insatiable cravings for foul and polluted substances of the worst kind. Let me show you.
I go to the fight for the billions and billions of men.
Carl Sagan is a style, you know, having this sort of science and looking forward into the future with the billions and billions of stars, this kind of thing. It just activated all this fantasy. And he's also a perfect example of that cross-section of poetry and science. And Eric auditioned for me when I had the open call. He showed up without a monologue, and he just sat there and said, I really want to. And so he just sat there and pretended to be very angry.
And my part is that of Hulk. We did a production here of Driving Miss Daisy, and when Sean knew of that, he thought it would be a great addition to his piece. And I had no idea what I was in for, if you will. Certainly outside of the box.
I came here and there was a production of Driving Miss Daisy, and so you have two contemporary sort of representations of traveling through some journey in a car, a transformative journey that two people go through, two interracial couples at different times. And, you know, I wanted Driving Miss Daisy to crash, you know, drunk Driving Miss Daisy to crash into the hills and see what happened.
I was bringing this character, Daisy Worthen, and that there would be some overlap between Daisy Worthen's experience and the Barney and Betty Hill experience and the history of eugenics in the U.S.
We were asked to come here with a production that we did this fall called Good Fences, based on Robert Frost's poem The Mending Wall. And not until Thursday evening did I understand our task and how it is interpolated into this.
Well, Good Fences was another interesting production that, you know, it's by a local playwright, and it's about burying a dead baby under a fence, and so there's this incredible sense of loss and regret in all of the language that really animates some of the sadder stories of people.
Certainly a new form of theater, one that I'm not familiar with, but it's been enlightening and a great experience. Great way to get a new sense of how to do theater.
No, this is the theater of the expression, is it? Very different, but you see, I'm learning. It's great.
I am here at the EMPAC with the Albany All-Stars Roller Derby. We are in this play, a Holly Hobby troupe of roller derby girls who are sort of in Betty's head.
Well, I was interested in Holly Hobby because of that the sort of version of the Dust Bowl, that sort of the way the Dust Bowl was repackaged as an American triumph in some way. And that was aestheticized through, I felt, things like Little House on the Prairie. In the 70s, in 1976, when we had our bicentennial, everything suddenly was country, and all the ducks were wearing little bonnets, and it was just a strange sort of cultural moment where people selectively chose what they were going to view as American art.
Well, I think that since it was Derby Girls and the mixture of that with Holly Hobby, then plus kind of like an artistic aesthetic kind of peppered over it, I thought, what a better way to do it than keep a 70s period, but take it to be like a little more pop art and a little more graphic.
I've never been a part of something that was this abstract before. Usually when I do something that forces me out of my normal personality or element, it's something like more structured, and this was like a complete melding of all different arts and everything, and we got to do it on roller skates, so it was cool.
Well, I'm very much at home here, so I think anything I was asked to do was kind of, all right, let's do that and see how it looks and see what happens, and getting the choreography down and taking what I've learned through roller derby and incorporating in what I know through theater was kind of a fun process.
Definitely out of my element. Shark came to us and said, I need some cheerless cheerleaders. So we're like, okay, I can do that. And really signed up for a lot more than that. It's been a very interesting experience, something I've never done before and don't know that I necessarily would do again.
There is a great deal of evidence to show that intellectual ability as measured by intelligence tests is in a large degree inherited.
Michael Steese is Dr. Davenport. He is the founder and head of the Eugenics Research Organization. And he sat down and I gave him some stuff to read, and his voice was so loud and booming and so amazing, and I was like, this person is definitely a keeper, just for even just intoning text of any kind, you know. And as it turned out, you know, he has 60 some odd years of experience in theater. He's directed his own work, and he just turned out to be a really, you know, a really wonderful, wonderful element in the piece.
Sean has been very fortunate
to gather together this talent to further his concept. It's hard for those of us who are the lesser lights to always appreciate that concept. I always have the feeling like somebody has discussed it with somebody else, only I wasn't at that meeting. So I must have missed it, you know, because considering the breadth of the material here and the incredible amount of talent that it's communicated through, I just have the feeling like that when I'm told to do something that I don't completely understand, that somebody knows the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing, only it's not me.
Winter is already here on the slopes of the cold and ominous Mount Washington. The summit weather station clocking the highest wind velocities ever recorded on any mountaintop in the world.
Winnie Bowen was like super interesting to me because when she came in and auditioned to me, she did a British accent, which is very common for people to try and show that they can act. And I told her to lose the accent and just do the scene as if she were very angry.
My God, I like opera. Liszt, Chopin, Rachmaninoff, opera.
I trust the vision of my director, the person of Sean, the person who created this. I trust that he knew what he wanted, and to the best of my ability, I went in the direction he wanted me to go. I see my character as one of the characters anyway specifically, as a very repressed woman, and in certain ways she becomes more open about what's going on, even though the stimulus that she's getting really shouldn't give you that.
Jean was wonderful. Jean was just a blessing. She just, you know, there was a scene from a film, a documentary that I wanted to stage into the piece, and she came in singing the aria. She's roughly the same age as the person, and she kept singing the same aria, so it was just like, I didn't have to do anything.
Of some 250 families.
Well, it's an entirely different experience. It reminds me in some ways of the various happenings that used to be very popular in the 60s and 70s. Well, there's a story involved. The area where it deals with the eugenics experiments of the 30s and early 40s and possibly ongoing, and connecting that with this sense of alien intrusion. You might not think you could put the two together, but it actually joins quite well and creates a lot of dramatic tension and a lot of, once you become really familiar with the work, it becomes very moving and at least to me.
It was interesting to me to have the tribe of Ishmael. We're like the lowest of the low in the social structure of the piece. And then for us to rise to this sort of like military regimented army of deer.
That's what modern dance needs something like that.
The thing that I'm so attracted to about dance as a performer is that you get to be everything, you know, like you never have to be just one thing when you're on stage. And so that's what I've been really enjoying about our process, fitting ourselves into this, that we are allowed to embody so many different kinds of concepts. And that is very exciting and enticing.
We feel a couple things. One is, as kind of the tribe of Ishmael, we're seen as the downtrodden of society and kind of the stereotypical representation of these kind of scavenging, dirty members of society. And in the framework of eugenics, which is discussed in the show, we're kind of the part of society that people want to get rid of with eugenics programs.
Neither of us had worked with Sean before, but we both live in Minneapolis, where the choreographer, Justin Jones, also lives, and he invited us to be part of this project, so we spent a lot of time rehearsing with him before we actually came here. And I guess I didn't really realize until we got here what our role has been. I see myself as less of an individual in this piece and more as a member of a tribe. If this were a music show, we'd be like the backup singers. And I also have learned too, and like through dancing in this piece, that there are lots of times where I feel like we're an organism, kind of an undefinable organism, not quite human, but a living, evolving thing.
My role is somewhere between like Loki, the trickster god, like Hanuman, who's also kind of a trickster god in Hindu mythology, and like Satan, and some kind of lieutenant Nazi, and also maybe some kind of alien that has a similar position to a lieutenant. I fly around, I keep the audience comfortable. Not exactly a narrator, but I am kind of like a companion through this sort of chaotic soundscape of a play, of a show.
Yes? I could.
What did his face look like? What did it make you think of?
You know, I sort of saw him as a devil, as sort of a Teutonic undergod of trickster kind of things. And I wrote this sort of mythology about him as sort of being this kind of cross between like Jiminy Cricket and Ted Nugent. So yeah, so he is a trickster god, and his sister is played by Juliana Snapper, is Else Caucasia Blankenhorn. And so I had this idea that, you know, that these people, these sort of archetypal white mythologies could be, you know, their genie bottles are rubbed, and so they manifest themselves through technology and through statistics, and that's why they're always saying numbers and things like this. So that all of these kinds of social, sort of white supremacy policies that were funded by the, you know, all these corporations and everything are, that's how they live their lives, and that's what brings them to life. So, and that's why I like opera, because you have to, you know, you get to create these sort of weird Wagnerian constructions that play out in really bizarre ways.
I first worked with Sean about 10 years ago, I think. And it's always really satisfying to work with him because he's genuinely interested in engaging the people he's working with as collaborators and having this kind of exchange and really letting you in on all of the different sort of themes in the piece, and also giving you the material to work on, these structures and these texts that then you take away and you sort of start to live with a little bit and to kind of expand on, right? And then you bring that back to him, and it's a wonderful give and take.
Liszt, Rachmaninoff, Chopin, Grieg, Stravinsky, I know all about it. Internationally played piano, internationally composed.
I played Barney Hill. This production of Cold Spring with Barney and Betty Hill was pretty challenging due to the subject matter. Barney Hill is constantly confused because most of the reports from the doctors and the scientific entities that worked with the Hills reported that Barney Hill, due to his racial sensitivity, was really not a willing participant in the whole abduction, whereas Betty Hill is excited that this is happening, and she has a feeling that she is in relationship with these aliens, whereas Barney Hill is just an unwilling participant.
Psychosis, flawed, is substantially excluded.
Betty is abducted into her, the life that she wants or thinks she wants. It's just not a sustainable life. People become celebrities for making these bizarre claims, which I've always loved. I always love it when somebody has their 15 minutes, you know, like a YouTube star. I love that. I was interested in seeing her as being abducted, not into, you know, by aliens, but abducted into a celebrity life, which she was. You know, she was nobody, and then she made out these outlandish claims, and you know, wrote this book, and suddenly she's like, everybody knows who she is.
Betty Hill pre-abduction. It's kind of a little more boring, but still very self-confident. And post-abduction, she did experience a bit of fame, and so thus the glamorous change.
Well, pre-abduction Betty, I felt like it was very important to get her right from photographs, like make it very literal. And I just found that dress, and it's not an exact replication of any photographs or any archival, you know, things that I've...
It's in the spirit of.
In the spirit of. Yeah, definitely, I think, evoking the spirit of Betty. And then, you know, to bring out some kind of like fantastical glamour spirit in the second, you know, part of the piece, I thought would be really fantastic. And Carolyn really has the essence to work a very beautiful period gown.
The musicians that this time we put together a relatively small team of musicians. Is only 6 people, and I have really only worked with one other musician, the pianist Greg. I haven't really worked with the string players or Damon, but I think the result has been very successful, that we've been able to put together something that's functional in the context of the work fairly quickly, and I'm sure that tonight will be better than the last night.
I do like composers who, you know, really go into themselves and you know, and find these beautiful structures that they try to pull out through rhythm and repetition and things like this. You know, I'm just not like that. I just see too many things around me, and you know, those all have resonance as well.
He's 72 years old, and I think of that.
How often is it that somebody gets to do a work like this in a lifetime as a composer? How many times?
So we started with this idea, this original idea from Sean, that the community would be a part of this piece. So the way that it grew over time just kind of happened organically, based a lot on my own personal connections in the community. I was formerly a public television producer, and so I had a whole laundry list of people that would be willing to do things for free because they had worked with PBS. So that really helped this production immensely. And the first contact that we made was with the Schenectady Museum. When Sean came to us with his concept for this piece, he had mentioned that he wanted sort of sculptural artifacts from technology over the last 150 years. And he didn't really have a good idea how you get that. He just kind of had this image in his mind and thought maybe we would find them in junkyards or thrift stores, but didn't have a direction to move in. As soon as I heard him say those words, I thought of the Schenectady Museum. I know, again, from my past life as a producer, they have this incredible archive in their basement, just tons and tons and tons of things. They were willing from the get-go to work with us and kind of opened up the doors and let Sean and I go down multiple times and wander through their archives and take photos and make wish lists of things that would just look really great on stage. They let us take works of art that were, priceless in value and trusted us with that, and that was a huge asset to this production. Beyond the museum, we worked with a number of local theater groups, and that, again, was, we got lucky. I mean, the piece would not have been the same without those people present. Their voices, their looks, their costumes, their plays that they brought, I mean, it just added such a rich texture to what Sean was trying to do. And then we had the Roller Girls, the Albany All-Stars roller derby. One of my best friends is captain of the league, and when we couldn't get cheerleaders, you would think cheerleaders would bring the enthusiasm, but it was really hard to get cheerleaders to want to be a part of something so weird. So we struck out with the cheerleaders, and rather than give up that sort of Holly Hobby gang of brats sort of concept that Sean had, Sean just kind of, he agreed to rethink it a little bit, and we were able to get 7 of the roller derby girls to come in and be our Holly Hobbies and skate around and cause a ruckus, and again, added this layer to this production that without it, I can't even imagine it would have been the same show. We were really fortunate that so many different groups wanted to come in, wanted to take the time. I mean, we had lots of late night rehearsals, but Sean had a way of making it seem fun. We had little songs that we would do, and we had to learn these dances and different choreographies, especially for the roller derby girls. I mean, they were really asked to put a lot into this show, and they did, and they brought it. And same with the community theater groups. I mean, they had to take these pieces that they had embodied and known in a very different way than how they were performed on stage, and did it totally willingly, and everybody had a great time. And the big challenge was, how do we get everybody here? A lot of these people work day jobs, so they couldn't get here, in the middle of the day. We couldn't do day-long tech runs. We couldn't do lighting tech with cast on stage. We had a lot of hoops we had to jump through to just make this show get off the ground by the time we needed it to be off the ground. I think it paid off, and we all walked away feeling like we'd been a part of something really special, really different. I mean, EMPAC had, to that point, not done anything like this, and who knows if we ever will again, but it was a lot of fun to be a part of.
I think the first challenge was getting the actors acclimated and feeling safe and understanding that getting into the air is not as simple as it looks, and trying to get them comfortable with us and feel safe that they're being looked after as we launch them 30 feet in the air. Another challenge was trying to really explore what Sean wanted in the aerial effects to help support the rest of his concept and vision. Once we did that, it then took some time for us to take his idea and then convert it through the mechanics and physics of flight to match what he's looking for. This show actually gave us a real opportunity to start from the beginning and develop our own style of how we were going to approach flying. We achieved what the look and feel that Sean was looking for to add to the show. I've never flown an opera singer before, especially going off of a scaffold, and I found that to be an enjoyable challenge of how to get a person into position without the audience knowing how it's happening in the background.
The system is a stage tech system where we have a certain amount of single point hoists, which we can connect from different points in the venue to make a bridle of a single point. For this system, what we did a 2-point bridle. It would take 2 points to match together and did the geometry for an up, across, and down flight, compared to Carolyn's drag, which was a single point, just dragging around the floor, then lift.
In this facility, where Cold Spring was performed, we have 8 stage tech incorporated big toes. They run at 4 feet per second. And the idea with this show was, while we had a lot of muscle in the air, we tried to reduce its footprint so that you couldn't see quite blatantly that there's aircraft cable doing the work.
I'm just ready, willing to do more.
Yeah, we got a thirst for it. Like, we went for some really sophisticated and in-depth training, which we were really, really excited about. And we gained the skills to start to take what we learned as a basis for expanding and trying to match and follow the new type of art we try to foster here.
In Cold Spring, I both played a part on stage and did video design, or at least the projected video design. And it was kind of interesting in that we kind of mixed the two. So even when I was on stage, I was doing the video that was running on stage. I played the part of Carl Sagan's Ghost, which is a whole nother matter. But the video design was very much a collaborative process with Sean. We were adding things, tweaking things up until literally the last minute. But beforehand, he had approached me with a bunch of different ideas about how to project everything from slideshows to portraits to highlighting objects on stage and so on. And I had to come up with something to kind of do all that. So we settled, worked with the video team here, Mick and Eric, on coming up with a solution. We used Isadora. We wound up working with that, and after a couple of iterations on choices of projectors, we did use the main theater projector. So with a single projector, we used Isadora. It's kind of punch holes into the set, or put one of the characters does a kind of a classroom presentation. So we had a rickety old pull-up screen on one side that we lit and put his presentation on there, and we showed some other video segments during the show on there. And there's a big wall that had a bunch of portraiture on it, as well as kind of artifacts from science eras gone by, and we used it to kind of highlight those or put portraits up on the screens and things. And one of the portraits was actually just a blank image that we used. Images that Sean had found in the Cold Spring archive of kind of these blended versions of people to kind of predict what people would look like if they had been, X number of generations of this, heredity and so on. And also to live, we mixed some live images from the show, cameras on the actors while they were in storage, quote unquote, on stage. We captured their image and had a little video mixer on stage that Ryan Jenkins and I kind of mixed in and out, and combined that through the computer with the images of the Irish schoolgirls. I guess they mixed 11 Irish schoolgirls together to kind of find a homogeneous, stereotypical face. And we applied Barney and Betty's faces and mixed those together and put those in that and projected that up on stage. So that was a kind of a fun challenge that Sean came up with, on top of all the other individual video elements that needed to get projected in and out. So it was a lot of fun. It was it's always a challenge, and especially doing it on stage and on cue was a lot of fun.
So one of the main, I guess, audio challenges of this piece, Sean Griffin's Cold Spring, was to make all the actors heard all the time that needed to be. So I had to sit through the rehearsals and kind of take note of who was on when and this and that. At first, Sean's idea was to just have some area mics out. That way the whole thing could sort of organically take shape and the actors would be able to just be picked up by the area mics. That ended up not working out due to how the piece ended up coming together with various elements like roller derby girls and other physical limitations, physical movements that were covering up the actors' lines. So in the end, we chose to just individually mic everyone with wireless mics, which ended up being about 12 principal actors that were mic'd. There were sort of 4-ish main characters, and then there were a bunch of other people that lived up in the side galleries of the theater, and the other main portion of the sound design was to keep all the sound localized and natural, so that no matter where an actor was on stage, you'd have some sense that the sound was generally coming from where they were standing. So we had speakers mounted in the side galleries of the theater, for example, so that whenever someone was speaking from there, you could just route their voice to come from that speaker. Same with, there were some scenes of the piece that performers flew in and out, from the top of the stage house down to the bottom, this and that. Same thing, we just had speakers up at the top of the proscenium and down by the stage, and we were able to just pan them as they came down or up. The abduction scene in particular, there's a lot of reverb and external processing of, especially, there's this Juliana's operatic voice as the whole scene sort of builds to a crescendos and sort of surrounding the audience. There's sounds coming and going, and there's the musicians in the pit build. How about that?
What's next?
My brother that's got the kung fu grip. He had real hair.
Alien bodies.
I don't really have a line that I memorize. I just read from paper.